Hi, Laura Sherwood here, the Firefly Stamper, lighting up one heart at a time. That is my desire as I make cards, as I do paper projects and share them. So I'm so glad you've joined me today. We're going to be looking at an early release product, and the early release is called Eden's Garden, and there's stamp set and dies that go with it. The card that I'm making today actually just uses the stamp. So here is the card that I'm going to show you how to make. It's very pretty. You can see the designer series paper here, and it has some gold foiling in it. It's so pretty. I also wanted to mention that I do mention one other card that I made with this class, or with this demonstration, I should say. And so these are the sets that I use. So the Quiet Meadows is the Thinking of You, and then I use this to do background, so the script and the leaves. So I wanted to mention that to you. Also, this is a stamp set that will be in the catalog in January to June. This is an early release, as I mentioned, so November the 2nd, customers will be able to order, and I'll have a host code for the month that you can order that through. As well, I wanted to mention that there will be, during this early release time, only available will be the designer series paper, some Eden Garden gems, cotton paper, something a little different, and so all of these products will be first come, first serve. So while supplies last, and then if you decide you want to order the stamp set and the dies in January of the new catalog, the mini catalog, you can do that. But the designer series paper and the other things that come in this collection will only be available during this early release period time, starting November the 2nd. If you have questions, let me know. Anyway, so glad you've joined me. Let's get started and have some fun. So this is the card we're going to make with the new stamp set called Eden's Garden, and we're just using the stamp set and the designer series paper. I probably should show you the designer series paper quickly. I've actually been working with it, so I actually have a lot of it cut up. It's gorgeous, and I'm going to show you a few cards on the different videos coming up. So this is and of course most of our paper is double-sided. As you can see, the great matching, being able to match up all your different patterns. And I'll just pull out the other ones as well. So here's another piece. Beautiful on the other side. And this piece, and I don't know if you can see, but there's actually little gold dots through here as well. And this is actually a variegated piece on the back, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is very pretty. Here. And again, another variegated piece. And this is gorgeous here, very pretty. And I think that is all the pieces. I think we've looked at, I don't think we've looked at this piece here. And then this one. So that is the designer series paper that goes along with the Eden's Garden. Now I will mention that when customers are able to purchase this stamp set and dies, although it is early release and will be available in the new catalog, this paper, Ever Eden 12 by 12, and the gemstones that are coming out, or the rhinestones that are coming out that I haven't even been able to get yet, they'll be on limited supply. So if you're very interested in this beautiful paper, when you're able to order, you'll want to order starting November the 2nd. And always check, please, if you'd like to order from me, Laura Sherwood, the Firefly Stamper, please check for my my code for the month, and that would help out a lot. So to make this card, we're going to start with making this designer series paper, and we start with just a basic white cardstock, and this measures 8 by 11.5, and we're going to cut it down to 8 by 10.5. So I'll do 10.5 first. So I'll just line that up on my cutter, a ruler, and I like having my blade up here to cut. So there's my 10.5. And then instead of 8.5, which is the normal width, I'm just going to cut it down to 8. So you can see there's not a lot cut off it. And then the next thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to score it. So I always push my blade out of the way. I don't know how many times I've grabbed my blade instead of my scoring tool. So on the long side, we're going to, on this side, the short side, we're going to score this at 4 inches. And you'll see why in a minute. So these are 4 inches. And then we're going to score this at, so it's going to be 5 1/4. So 5 1/4. I'm going to stop and think there for a minute. So this just shows us where to stamp our patterns, and then we're going to be cutting it later to get the cards that we want. So here is the my worksheet. I don't know if you can see the score lines, but there's score lines on there that we can see to work with. And I want to make sure I've got this well in the camera. Now, the first thing I want to do, I have 2 pieces left because I actually have made a couple of cards with the first sheet that I made. And so basically, when I line these up, and actually I'm going to go this direction, and if I line these up like this, I am going to be able to see that I'm going to, there we go, I am going to stamp my 4 soft succulent, and this is the leaf group that is in the stamp set from Eden's Garden. So I'm going to be inking this up. I'm just going to go by what I've already done. The expression is, don't reinvent the wheel. And so I'm going to move those so we can see that I have made my, all right, so there's 1. I don't know if my ink is getting down or not, so I'll make sure I press nice and hard. And then this is soft succulent. I always have to double check when it comes out so nice and dark. So there's 1. I'm just going to turn this around, and I'm going to go here. There we go. And I am going to press down nice and firmly. There we go. Now you may find that you don't need to turn your sheet of paper around. I find that I like turning my sheet of paper around. And then this one. And we'll have 1 more to go. All right. And 1 more. Each of us has our own little ways that we like to stamp, and I guess we have our little quirks. That happens to be one of my quirks. So there we go. That's the last one for that group in the soft succulent. So there's soft succulent. I'm going to close up my stamp pad, and I am going to actually grab my simple chamois. I don't know if you use the simple chamois. I really like it. I cut mine in 4s. I just find it's easy to manage. Then if I get one that's takes a while really for them to get dirty, as far as not taking off the ink anymore. Look how nice that is. But I like using it in my studio here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my little, you can do this pattern however you like. I am going to use my card that I already have done. And I think the next one I'm going to do is this one here. This is the Evening Evergreen, and I've got another stamp from the set, and I'm going to just ink that up. Now I should have underneath me a sheet of paper, because when you're doing this, you'll want to have some scrap paper or the grid paper that Stampin' Up sells. I happen to find the grid paper very useful. If I tear off a plate piece, I should have had that all ready for you. And I'm going to slide it underneath here so that if I stamp off, I'm not going to get it on my table and then get it on my arms, which is would be my thing. I'm going to make sure that I'm set up here so you can see. There we go. There we go. All right. So just so you can see. So here we go. I'm going to, I usually like to stamp off just to make sure I don't have too much ink. So this is the Evergreen, the Evening Evergreen. And I always try to make a habit of putting the labels I put on the end of my stamp sets towards me, because I'll end up getting into the wrong ink pad if I have more than one ink pad open. And so I'm just going to follow the pattern that I have here, and I'm going to stamp and stamp, and I'm going to just put a few more of these lovely groups of flowers on this lovely sheet of paper, and we're going to go this way and this way, and actually this is kind of nice because you can actually go 2 corners. Isn't that cool? All right, and so I got one there, I have one there, I think I'll put another here. And don't worry if you end up doing this, which is what I just did. I find that I've been able to compensate for it when I've made my cards. So I just make sure I have something over it when I'm going through. Do we want any more of these? So 1, 2, maybe one more. So let's do one more, just kind of right there, all the way around. And always, of course, the danger is to put too much ink on your stamp, and then you end up getting those those edges. So again, my practice is to wipe off, and it's very quick when you have these simple chamois. And I'm just going to put this aside. I'm going to close my ink pad because I'm done with this one. Now the next color I think I'll use is the brown. I'm going to use the lightest color at the end, and I'll put this hopefully back in your view. And I'm going to put a few of these lovely little pieces of grass, and I'm going to use the brown for that, and that ties into the base of the card. So again, I'm just doing the don't want to press down too hard when I'm doing this. So let's try anything that we've had. Oh, I got an edge there. I'm pressing down too hard or have too much ink in my pad, one or the other. So let's just try that again, lightly. That's a little better. And again, it's just really random. You don't have to follow a certain pattern. And you can always go back and add more if you wanted to as well. Might just do a little one there. Maybe I can get rid of that, camouflage it a little bit. Okay, so you can see that I'm just working my way around. It's not, you don't have to do it in any particular fashion. I am just, everyone will be probably a little bit different. And I try not to hurry because I'm going to try to concentrate on not putting too much pressure on my stamp. I don't want that ridge on the edge of the stamp. So I'll try to behave myself. It seems like I'm getting a ridge, so I'm going to clean my stamp and reload. That's what you do as well when you start getting too much ink on your stamp. And let's try that. And I'm switching my stamp around a little bit too, every little bit. All right, so there's that. So before we put any more, I'm going to close up this for now, and I'm going to get my Crumb Cake as the next color that I'm using. And so this is the Crumb Cake. again, I want to watch that I don't put too much. I've got too much ink on it. There we go. Let's try this again. All right, now we're just going to kind of go through and add some of the other colors. And again, just make your stamp back and forth so you get a nice nice variety of direction. I'm going to go off on this one. Flip this around again. Over the line, which is great, being able to get that different directions this way. And again, just trying to change it up. I find this very soothing. If you could see out my patio doors I have in this room. It's our second bedroom and it has patio doors to our back garden, and it's very, very calming, I find. Very nice. All right, I'm quite happy with that. So that is my designer series paper that I've created, and so I want to show you the results of that creation and how to. So now what I'm going to do, so I have my score lines and I'm going to cut it this way and this way, and what's going to happen after I cut it, I'm going to end up with 4 of these card fronts, and which I'm going to use to make cards with the Eden Garden Designer Series paper, and won't have to use the stamps except for my sentiment. So the card that I'm going to demonstrate is this card. And I'm going to you just take a piece of your, whatever you want. I worked on the brown for the background. So I just took a piece of standard size brown, early espresso it's called, paper. And I cut it at 5.5 and then scored it at 4 1/4. So that gives me my card base. And so I'm just going to find my bone folder here. So I'm just going to fold it, and I am going to score it. There we go. Then I'm going to cut a piece of designer series paper, which I've already done. And the designer series paper is cut at, I'll just show you that measurement right here, cut at 2 1/4, and then this should be 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to glue that onto my card front, onto the piece I've already made, and I'm going to use this, and I'm going to glue this onto here, and I am going to glue this onto here like that. And I think I'll glue this one first to make sure it goes, or to use the Stampin' Seal, which is what I'm going to use, I think. Take the cover off, that'll help. And I am going to go here. All right. And so depending on what you do for a pattern will depend on where everything falls and how you want to align. I wanted to ensure that I had some of my the big flowers showing, so I wanted to make sure, oops, I did that, and here I've got it stuck. Okay, well, we're going to do a little bit of cutting here on the edge. You can see I've got a little space here, and I'm just going to cut that off on my, I can either use my paper cutter or my paper snip. So just excuse me as I bring it closer so I can see, and I'm just going to carefully cut this piece off, do a little tiny trim as it were. There we go. So I wanted to do that piece first in case I did end up doing that. Now I'm going to put this onto my card front, and I think actually I'm going to use glue. The liquid glue. I use both. I know some people have a preference. I do find sometimes my fingers can get glue on them, but if I'm careful, I guess, I do pretty well. I do like my grid paper because my grid paper allows me to try to have a sense of that I've got it straight, and then I'm going to, and the glue will give you a little bit more wiggle room. So that's about where I want it right there. So there's the beginning of my card, and so the pattern's a bit different than the other one I did, but that's perfectly fine. Where I also used my circle, layering circles dies, and I don't know if you are familiar with those or not, but it will give you a variety of circles to cut out, and you can just basically be able to pick which size you want, and so that gives you the scalloped edge, as you can see there, and then these round ones. So I cut it so I had one, and there are a variety of sizes, and so I just cut these two different sizes. So I want to stamp on here in the early espresso. I'm going to stamp sending hugs, and then I'm going to take my dauber and I am going to go around the edge just to soften the edge a little bit and have it match up nicely with the brown. And I think that's good. I hope my head isn't behind the camera as I'm in front of the camera as I'm trying to get it nice and centered. There we go. And my dauber, oh, I do need that open, and I do need to do this. Good to have certain practices you do, one of which is cleaning your stamps as you use them. And I do have a dauber here. I already had it out. So I'm just going to use the dauber, put it in my ink, and then just go around the side. I always tell those that do classes with me that it's better to use a little bit first and get a sense of how it's going on. And then if you want more, to actually go back and add it. So, which is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add a little more. I want to come right into the circle to help fill that circle up and to give that almost an old look, as it were. And just lightly with the dauber. I think that's good. So there's my circle, sending hugs, and put that back up there. Now I'm going to glue this onto my circle, and then I am going to use dimensionals to raise it up a little bit, and I'll have to go dig out my ribbon. I don't have my ribbon here. That won't take long. Now I'm just going to try to get this so it's centered. There we go. Okay, I'm going to grab some dimensionals. So we're going to put some dimensionals on the back. And I'm going to grab my, oops, I got a whole bunch. That's probably good. And then I'm going to grab my ribbon. I love this ribbon. It is so pretty. And I think it was really popular because I actually just had two more. I had ordered some, and they didn't come with my order. Oops, not the one I want. I want the one that's opened. There we go. And so this ribbon, it's called Shimmer Ribbon. And as you can see, it's this beautiful gold colored. I am going to put this on the card, and then I'm going to, and I'll get my my gems as well. These are the gems I'm going to use, called Janelle Gems, and so we'll be putting those on as well. And it was interesting, as I went through, I thought, I want to find other things, because not everybody's maybe will have the gold gems. Maybe there's other ones you have. So I always like using a variety of embellishments on my cards. All right, so here's our sending hugs. So you can decide if you want that kind of right in the, if you want it over this way. I think I'll go over this way just a bit. And so there's my sending hugs. Now I'm going to show you, don't let me forget to put these. I'll make sure I don't forget to put those on. Maybe I'll put those on next. I'm not likely to forget the bow. So I'm going to take my pick a tool here, and it is great. It's got the putty end, which is awesome for being able to put these on. So this is great. These gems have, these ones are, particular ones are green, a soft green, and they have a sparkle, a gold sparkle, which picks up, of course, on the paper so very nicely. And I'm actually going to put 3 here, and I am going to put 1 like above. I'm going to put 1 there. So we just get that little bit of sparkle spread across. There we go. So I didn't want to forget to do that. And that would be one thing that sometimes I do forget. So I've got my ribbon. I don't know if you've seen this before on how to make a bow in this way using your 2 fingers. Excuse me, I have allergies and they seem to be acting up at the moment. So you just take your ribbon, put it over your baby finger, bring it up, and you're going to do a figure 8. So there, that's 1 loop, and I just want a single loop on each side. So there's my 2 loops. Then I'm going to cut it. So I just stretch my fingers out to know how much room I need to cut it. And this ribbon seems to be quite good to work with. Then I take this end I've cut, put it through my fingers. It's going to come up, and I want it between these 2 fingers when it comes up, but I need to loop it from there in through here. So I'm going to take this, which is probably the more challenging part of making this bow, and I am going to loop it up and through there. There we go. And there is my bow. I find it sometimes hard to make a nice bow traditionally, and generally when I end up with this bow, generally, won't happen every time, but I have a bow that I like. So I guess that's the thing, is to have a bow. And I've gotten used to making bows because a lot of my customers like me to make their bows for them. So there's my bow, and I think I'll put it on before I actually cut the tails on it. I always just leave the tails, again, those who come, and the gals who do cards with me, when they come, I'll say to them that I haven't cut the tails, and I like because I want you to do that just how you like it. So there's my bow, and I'm going to cut now to get the length that I want. It has a piece of paper on it, so I'm just going to cut this. There we go. And I'm going to cut this. There we go. There. So there's the card. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I did want to show you one other I did with the designer series paper. So you might choose, if you decide to do this four card wonder, because it's so quick, right? Because you have this here, you have it done up, you cut it in 4, you do 4 strips of this, cut out your circles, and stamp and put it together, and you can do all your stamping at the same time and get everything ready, have your bows all make, and then assemble. And you have, so whether you want to put happy birthday, sending hugs, whatever the case may be. Now this is another one I used with one of my sheets of my 4 card wonder, and you don't know if you'll find this interesting, but I decided to keep all the little scraps I had as I was making different cards, which again in another videos I will show you. And so I took my scraps and I thought, okay, I want this to be a little bit not quite as fancy. And so I decided to go with the crumb cake. And I actually used a piece of crumb cake, and I used the Harvest Meadow, I think it is, that has the Thinking of You, but it's the background on that one isn't done with that card. I needed something that would fit for the Thinking of You, and let me see if I can find my, yes, here it is right here. And it's called Positive Thoughts. No, it wasn't Positive Thoughts, the other one. And I apologize because I can't seem to pull it out very quickly. This one I can show you. So this is the one, I use this one for the background of the stamp. So if you look, if you can see closely, there's a leaf here and there's a little bit of writing in the background. And so actually I used this, stamped it on my crumb cake, and stamped that on my crumb cake. Then I stamped the Thinking of You in the espresso. So the back of the crumb cake is stamped with crumb cake ink, and then the Thinking of You is actually stamped with the early espresso. And then I use just the twine. Again, I want to give a more not as a fancy of a card. And then I also cut out this same the label dot